So we formed, Kitty and I met in another band, and kind of had a shared love of live music, really. We specifically kind of were in London, and a lot of the stuff in London at that point was quite, it seemed like bands on stage seemed a little bit like disinterested. They were very calm and really relaxed, and the whole thing was kind of acting super cool and not looking like you cared too much.
It was like a lot of shoegaze music at the time, psychedelic and shoegaze. So, but John and I are like big fans of rock and metal and things like Nine Inch Nails and Jack White, and we wanted to perform more. We wanted to do something that was more rock starry and obnoxious and punk, I guess.
Yeah.
So we started a band together to get to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And we claimed that we were a psychedelic band so we could get to play shows, but really we were kind of a punky, fuzzy band. And then obviously like started recording, Andy joined the band, and then since the first record we've done up until now, there's just been a constant evolution of what we're doing, because we are like very pure in our artistic vision, that we just do whatever we're interested in at that time. So we're not like an AC/DC thing where you just do one thing and stick to it and just keep, like, we very much like on each record just go with whatever we're interested in at that point. And on the new record, which is coming out soon, like we started to experiment more with like electronics and industrial stuff, and also some more like atmospheric kind of beautiful elements, whereas the previous record was all just really hard hitting, quite intense and feedback and stuff. This one was much more like, how do we bring some beauty into it?
And what does the name Saint Agnes mean to you?
So Saint Agnes, like, I mean, the name for us, like, names stop having a meaning, I think, once, you know, like, and it's like a person's name. Once you know the person, you stop even thinking what their name is. You just use it, and it just means them. And for us, Saint Agnes, like, when we're talking about it for ourselves, like, it just means this whole world and project and everything that we do. So I think when we first started the band, Saint Agnes had this kind of name for us that just felt like something that felt sort of iconic and open enough that we could allow ourselves to define it later. And I think what we are and what we've become has now defined the name.
Good answer.
Thank you.
And how would you describe your sound to someone who has never heard your music?
I think the main thing is that it is emotionally intense. The lyrics and the way I sing is like, I try to be as honest and authentic as possible, because that's what I like in music. I like bands where you just know it's coming from their soul and their heart. You just know. So that's what I try to do as much as possible. We're loud, like live. It's like very intense, very loud.
Not in a kind of traditional metal way. It's more like he referenced Nine Inch Nails earlier. It's like in that world where it's noisy and abrasive rather than necessarily super tight and kind of, we're not like Meshuggah or something like that. You know, it's not like that style. It's just generally kind of punky, noisy, with elements of metal. We really, with metal bands, we like bands like Sepultura, like stuff that's a little bit messy and a bit raw,
Yeah.
And like early Korn and things like that. So I think that's kind of like fed into what we do. But yeah, Nine Inch Nails, that intense emotional honesty is such a core part, and we really worked on this record to try and like get out the way of Kitty's vocals, like me and Andy musically, just letting the music kind of have more space. And then just Kitty, with the previous record, Kitty was just like yelling and shouting over everything because that was the headspace you were in at the time. And on this record, you wanted to sing a bit more. And so we're like, well, how do we do that? And we just realized we had to make more space in the music.
And which artists or bands have influenced you the most, both sonically and visually?
So Nine Inch Nails will mention them again.
Yeah,
Both of us, all of us, like huge fans. Just such a fan of the emotional intensity, the live the way the songs are performed live,
Mm-hmm.
it's just incredible.
Yeah.
And the lighting, everything, it's a whole kind of assault on the senses, and that's really what we try to do live as much as budgets allow, because we're a small band, so we always like we're on tour at the moment with Vukovi, and we've taken extra strobes with us, we've got extra lights that we've programmed to the set, so we're always trying to up the ante with the whole thing, so like the music, the kind of delivery of the music, and then the visuals as well. We're like really invested in that, because I think like there's so much music now, there's so many gigs on, you've got to be bringing like more than just getting up and playing songs, like, or we like to put on a show.
We don't feel like we've done our job until we've kind of exhausted every single thing that could make the show better. Like for me growing up, one of the bands I loved was White Zombie, Rob Zombie's like old band, and I loved reading interviews with them that they said that even when they had absolutely no money and they were touring in a broken down van, they would always think, how can we make the show like more? And they said like if there was like roadworks outside the venue, they'd go and steal all the yellow spinning lanterns and bring them in and put them on the stage, and have smoke bombs on the stage because they didn't have a smoke machine, and just trying to make it something. And I really admire that attitude of like, what do we have? We have no money, but what do we have that we can make this bigger and better?
And it helps us get in the right headspace as well for performing. Like if it's, you know, bright on stage and there's not lighting and stuff, it's hard to tap into the emotion that you need like atmosphere. And also I think so it's for us, but also like gig tickets are expensive, like, and people, you know, money for everybody is so tight that for me it's like if someone spent money on coming to our show, I really want to like give them a great night out. I mean, it's so important. What was the question? Sorry.
Yeah.
It was, which artist or band have influenced you the most?
Yeah, so
apart from me.
Definitely me.
The Dead Weather?
Yeah, the Dead Weather. Like, I grew up, when I was a teenager, I was really into the Kills and Alison Mosshart, and she was such a inspiration for me of like a woman in back then there were so few women in rock music, and like just her attitude was just incredible. Like she seemed so pissed off, so just into the music. I found that just so inspirational. She was like, back then she was like, seemed really quite shy and sensitive as a person, but on stage would just like explode. And like I'm a really shy person. I've always really struggled to connect, particularly like a teenager growing up, to connect with other people. And it was the same thing for me. It was like, oh, like maybe on stage I could do that. And that's kind of what's driven me, is like I find this new lease of life on stage that I find really difficult in real life. So Alison Mosshart and the Dead Weather.
Yeah, if it's not something you're familiar with, or someone's watching this who's not seen it, look up the Dead Weather live from the basement. That's like a perfect example of what Kitty's talking about. Like, it's Jack White playing drums, and then Alison Mosshart on vocals, and then a guy from Queens of the Stone Age and someone else from the Raconteurs, and it's just this kind of gothic blues, raucous, little elements of new metal, and Alison Mosshart is like absolute whirlwind. Like really, there's very few front people.
Yeah, she's one of the best.
Like that are kind of like at her level. She's right up there.
Yeah, underrated.
Massively underrated.
What about you?
Oh, the influences. Well, sorry, kind of covered one there.
Drumming wise though, anything you'd like to add, Andy?
No, we're all good there.
Okay, cool. Next question.
Okay. I'm shy too, sorry.
That's okay, don't worry.
I'm more shy in video than in person.
It's hard being on video.
Awkward.
Because I feel a bit stupid while talking to a screen.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's really hard.
I couldn't perform in front of many people. Your lyrics are very intense. Where do these ideas come from?
I used to, when I first started writing, I would write from the point of view of characters. I found that a lot easier, and I was quite inspired by that. Say someone like Nick Cave, he'll often write like murder ballads from the point of view of murderers, and I don't think he's killed anyone. So it was like the idea of like using characters and stories to express myself. I was like really into that. But with our last record, Bloodsuckers, it was recorded just after my mum passed away unexpectedly. And so for that record, I just couldn't be, I couldn't be a character. I was just emoting, grieving, emoting, and like my lyrics were just wrenched out of me, a lot of it. And the performances as well, particularly on that record, were just wrenched out of me. So that's kind of where I started to learn how to be myself and speak with my own voice rather than through characters. And since I started doing that, it's just like, it's really satisfying, and it feels a lot more honest and more just right for where I am in life now. So everything on the new record is all just my own experiences, thoughts I've had. There's songs on there about my friends, like things they've gone through and stuff I've wanted to say to them. So now it's very personal, the new record, in terms of lyrics.
And what is your creative process like when composing new songs?
So Jon's like a bit strange in that he just writes so much music all the time. His head is it's quite problematic actually. It's just like filled with ideas, and if he doesn't get them out, you kind of lose your mind a bit, don't you? So, but it's really useful being in a band with someone like that, because he just has endless musical ideas, endless. So the process usually is Jon will play me a bunch of stuff, and I'll immediately start editing and producing and being like, love that, let's run with that, let's add this into it. And so it starts with like an idea from Jon, and then I kind of come in, and then we start producing music together.
Yeah.
And I'd say, like, for me, the first thing I always have is visuals in my head. When I hear some music, I'll immediately be picturing kind of like a music video, I guess, but like a film. Like, I'll see characters, I'll see a setting, and that then informs kind of what the song's going to be about and where it's going to go. And the songwriting, it has to fit into the world that I've pictured. It's really important. And that's how we keep things feeling Saint Agnes-y, I think, is like staying true to that initial vision that I have.
Yeah.
What makes the thread for the body of work, be it an album or an EP, like it is the kind of visual aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it brings the whole thing together.
And keeps it all in line.
Yeah, definitely. Like with the new records, when we were going in to start it, I had loads of ideas, but we'd left it quite open. We didn't want to. I think the previous record was such a hard process, because Kate was in such a personal, difficult headspace that we all, like, it was by its nature a brutal process. And I think that we needed to kind of fall in love with making music for this record. And to do that, we needed to not have too much of like a set idea, and going into it with an open mind. Just Kitty had this overarching idea of something beautiful coming out of something that had been really dark. Like life was coming out of being reborn out of death and grief. And just that simple concept just of like hope and some sunlight coming in around the darkness informed everything we were doing. A lot of the songs have like major chords which are like brighter and sunnier and things at certain moments. Just when you think it's getting really dark, there's just this sudden uplift and things like that. And we would never have done that before, but it was because Kitty had this idea in her head. It made me think, well, how do I do that on guitar or whatever? And that's our process really. It's a lot of talking, a lot of communication. We could write songs way quicker if we were less picky about this stuff. We like to we never let it go until we're like, are we totally satisfied? And it's an impossible thing to describe to an outside person. If we work with other producers and stuff, they're always like, cool, this is done. And we're like, it's kind of, yeah, it has everything that it needs, but we don't love it and we won't let it go till we love it.
Have we explored this route?
Yeah.
With it. Kind of.
Yeah. So it's a long process. But that's the joy of making something. That's why we do it.
Yeah, I mean, that is literally why we do it, to please ourselves in that way. And it's tough, you know, like there's no money. We have, our budgets are so small that, you know, we all work, we all have day jobs. So for me, it's like, why would we stop short of doing it to please ourselves, you know, because it's so hard. The point of doing it is to like,
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And in the studio, who leads the production and artistic direction?
I mean, it's really kind of like, as we said, like it's Kitty's overarching vision that creates the main theme, but really it's a collaborative process. And when it comes to production, again, like I tend to have like thousands of ideas that I'd like to explore, and I can be quite like pushy on like, oh, I really want to try this, I really want to do that. But when any of us have an idea, we're like, I really think this is a good idea and I really think we should try it, we always just go with it and see. It's much better to just try it and see than it is to go, well, I don't really understand what she's getting at, but I'll argue against it. It's like, no, okay, well, let's do that, and then afterwards go, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this. This is cool. Let's make it more. So it's really collaborative.
It's super collaborative, but it's taken a really long time to get to that point because we've been writing music together for decades now, and you know, we have a language between us that we understand, and a way of doing things that just over the years has just become easier and easier. So it's like it's quite quick now, whereas before we might argue a lot more, misunderstand each other, not be able to explain what we mean. Now it's so fluid and easy compared to before. It's a joy, really.
Yeah.
For your new album, God-Fearing Days Are About to Begin, what concept or message did you want to convey?
Yeah, so like Jon said before, it's really, when I thought about making new music, I did have an image in my mind, and it was of the sunlight coming in. So it was kind of, it sounds silly, but the way I always pictured it was like being in a nightclub all night, dancing all night, that sense of euphoria, and as the sun rises, that incredible feeling of like being alive and being filled with hope. There's nothing quite like that, and that's what I wanted to capture on the record. So there's definitely sadness and grief and darkness on there, but there's a lot more beauty, a lot more light, a lot more melody. It's, yeah, I'm so proud of it. It's exactly what I wanted to create. We've done it. So I'm really happy.
And the title of the record, Your God-Fearing Days Are About to Begin, like when we wrote the record, we were aware of the beginning of the rise of like the Christian right across Europe and America and everything, and a couple of the songs have a slight kind of, they're not like overly political, but they're like world events couldn't help but seep into the music that we're doing. And it's Kitty's kind of personal, like I'm trying to think how to put it, within the events of the world that are going on at the moment, these are personal stories. So we were aware that like Your God-Fearing Days, like it's becoming less and less okay to not be like a God-fearing Christian in certain parts of the world. And that is quite a scary idea. You know, you only have to read some like dystopian things and like The Handmaid's Tale or something like that to realize where these things can go. Yeah, and
it's like, to be clear, it's like, it's not Christianity, it's people using Christianity to do really awful things, like the abortion ban across America, the repeal of the abortion, Roe Wade, like just stuff like that. You can't help but be influenced by this dark feeling that seems to be across the world, and the awful things that are happening, like in Palestine, all of that stuff. is that can't help but influence an artist, I think, when they're writing and living in the world. So there are some songs on the record, that are probably more political than anything we've written.
Yeah, still with a personal angle to them. And like, you know, your God-fearing days are about to begin, as if we feel like we're entering into the beginning of quite a dark period of human history. But within that, we still wanted to musically have these moments of personal light, that just because the world in the grand scale is becoming darker and more difficult doesn't mean that your own personal lives and
it's more important. I think hope is quite radical now, to have hope, and I think it's really important that people do look to the future, and because otherwise I don't know where we're at. I think it's quite radical to feel hopeful.
Agreed.
And how did you decide which songs make it onto an album and which don't?
That's a good question. You just have to go with the ones that feel right and exciting at the time. There's a few songs that we started working on for this album that we just couldn't quite kind of find the thread that allowed them to go from an idea to something more complete. And I think you just have to trust that if something's that difficult, it's because it's not quite ready. Like you're not even quite mentally ready to engage with that particular idea. The voice doesn't feel right within the music. And then there were some songs that were written for the album that came really late in the day that just appeared because we were in a certain mindset from making the others, that they just appeared. And it just becomes apparent kind of about halfway through the process, where you're like, these ones feel great and they feel like they belong together, and those other ones, maybe we need to revisit them in a year's time and just take the cool bit from it and get rid of all the stuff that a year later you come back and you can see so obviously why it didn't work.
That's the cool thing as well, is like, because you know we're songwriters, so anything that doesn't get used, it's not like it's going in a bin. It's all just there, ready to use in the future. So it's I don't feel a lot of stress about that, really. An idea is never gone. It's like just waiting for the right time. Or
it's like wine on a shelf waiting to taste right, you know. You have to come back to it.
The last track on the album, what was that? Like, you had that in about like 10 years.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and Song for Me, the chorus of it, the melody, that's been kind of around since the beginning of the band, but it just never had a place until now. We were writing something and it's like, oh, that idea would work really well then. It just suddenly appears again in your brain. Of the hundreds of ideas that are floating around, it's the one that just pops up and you think, wow, that's been in the back of my mind for years, but today's the day it gets used and it feels fresh again.
And is there a particular track on the album that, I don't know if this is the question. No. Is there a particular track on the album that has a very personal meaning to you?
All of them, really. But I'd say the most difficult to play live is a song called The Beast that we are playing at the moment on tour. And I think it might be my favourite song on the record. And it's about my evolving relationship with grief and where I am now and where I've come from with it. Because grief is it really is like I would imagine, lifelong journey that you have to wrestle with, that feels different at different stages in your life. You really have to like make grief a part of yourself. Otherwise you're fighting against it. And that's what the song is about how I just kind of submitted to grief very early on and just let myself feel everything I needed to feel. I didn't fight the sadness at all. I just let it into my life. And I do think that's been a really good thing, actually, because I know, like, if you do, having seen people who try to pretend what's happened hasn't happened and block it out, I just think it's a really dark path and you end up going inward. I think it's really important to reach outward when you're grieving and reach for people and lean on people and talk to people. I just think, so that song, The Beast, is really personal.
And it starts super dark and ends with hope and light. It's a perfect kind of encapsulation of the whole vibe of the album.
The band has a very powerful and theatrical aesthetic. How did you develop it, and what role does it play in your music?
I think it's just who we are when we go on stage. I think we just are quite theatrical in our presentation of the music. It wasn't really a choice. It was just, oh, this is what we do when we go on stage, and then over the years you just refine your performance. And I think the theatricality is really important, but I think it's also like juxtaposed with a real raw edge as well. So I think it's quite interesting having something that can be quite theatrical and gothic and kind of horror filmy feeling at the same time as being like actually very raw, quite punk feeling,
very in the moment and real.
Nothing's that planned beforehand. It is a bit just like barrel on stage, what happens. We don't
like a lot of theatrical bands, everything is planned, every moment. You know, if you take a band like Rammstein or something, everything's planned. The whole show is a great big, if you took the music away, it's still like a show, you know. Whereas we are like, well, what the band in our head that's going to make this music, what does that look like? And we kind of embody it. But ultimately we perform just like a kind of really angry punk band. And we don't want to have pre-planned moves or theatre or props. That's just not our thing. Like, so we like presenting ourselves to a certain level, but the theatricality reaches a point where we're like, that's the perfect level, and more than that stops feeling for us like it's an emotional thing, and you just feel like you feel like an actor rather than an artist. And for that, it's really important that we stay as artists.
I think I never really plan, I probably should actually, but I never really plan what to say or crowd participation. So often it can be quite awkward and quite confused, because I'm in the moment when you have like, you know, hundreds of pairs of eyes staring at you, and you're suddenly like, shit, I've got to thank the support band, I've got to thank the band who's brought us on tour, I've got to thank the audience, I've got to remember where I am exactly. So there's been quite a few quite comic moments where I have really messed up, so maybe we should plan things more actually. But it's just too much to think about, so I just tend to rely on, oh, you'll be fine in the moment, and then I never am. But
that's the Alison Mosshart thing. Like when we saw Alison Mosshart play, like she's really in the moment and spontaneous, and for everything that you gain by being pre-planned, you lose in that spontaneous. You have to accept that to be spontaneous comes with mistakes, and it means there's going to be some.
It's realer.
There'll be some errors,
And the recent music videos, like Songs for Mia, are very visual and emotional. How important are videos for conveying your vision?
Yeah, really important, because as I said, like when I first start writing, it's all visual. So when I come to make the music video, it needs to match as much as I can. You know, like what I would like is to basically do like a film for every song and have an endless budget, and because that's what I'm picturing. But then we have to like take that idea and figure out what we can make for no money, and maybe take one small element from that idea and try and like make a music video from it. And it's actually quite a good process, because I think music videos can get quite, I'm not really a fan of narrative music videos where there's a storyline you have to follow, and I think unless you've got a massive budget, it's really hard to do that effectively. So what I like to do is just take one idea and exploit that idea as much as possible. So usually it's like one setting, one room, one idea, and just try to make that like look as good or as fitting as we can.
It's kind of the same approach we take to playing a show. You just accept the limitations of where you are, how long you have, and you just make it the best you can. And we're the same with videos, as Keith said.
It's got to like have the right feel, I guess, the right vibe, rather than it being bloated or, you know, because ultimately it's like a visual for the music, so it's really important for vibe. But yeah, I'm not too worried about making, you know, long storylines and things like that. It's not.
But we're very hands-on and we do everything ourselves. So all the videos, that's that's been a big learning curve for us, that we've learned how to make videos. It's just us and a cameraman. We're super hands-on, and we've preferred it. When we've tried working with other people, you end up looking like their vision, which is a really weird thing, looking not how you see yourself. It's like, again, you feel like an actor rather than an artist, and to us it's so important that you represent yourself in a way that feels totally authentic and genuine.
How have your fans responded to the new singles and your upcoming album?
We're really lucky because I think like we've evolved from the first record, Welcome to Silvertown, to Bloodsuckers to now, and the EPs that have come in between, we've really evolved our sound, and we're really lucky that we have an audience who are really into that. I think sometimes, a band, fans can get really pissed off if a band drastically change their sound. We're really lucky in that our fans seem to love that we do that they're growing with us. They like to see the progression. So the response to the new singles has been incredible, actually. Really cool. Very exciting.
Yeah, the first single we wanted to put something out that was like challenging almost. It was,
and we did wonder for a second at what's the audience going to make of it.
Yeah, but seemingly everyone trusts like the authenticity that comes out of us.
Yeah, and I think because the common thread between everything is Kitty's like quite clear voice. Like we don't use hundreds of layers of vocals, and there's not tons of effects on it. There might be quite a lot of layers and textures in the music, but Kitty's vocal is always quite present, that I think it doesn't really matter where we go with the music, as long as Kitty's voice is like there telling the story and being authentic. If you're a fan of what we've done on anything before, you will find something to like in what we're doing now.
And what does performing live mean to you compared to working in the studio?
It's just a totally different thing, really. I don't think I love both. It's all just part of making art. It's great getting to meet people, the fans, see them, connect with them. Like there's no feeling that beats it. Like the last gig we played with Vicovi was in Sheffield, and it was just a perfect show. Like when you have an audience that are just really respectful of what you're doing and tuned into what you're doing, and then they start to understand what you're doing and get on board, and you can kind of feel that happening across the show. Like it's magical. We played the song I mentioned before, The Beast, at the end as the last song. We're playing that at the moment, and it's like, I can feel the connection with the audience, and I really think that's why I still do this, is because I do find it hard to connect in real life, but on stage singing these songs, I just feel this like deep connection with other human beings that for me is quite unusual, quite rare. So it's just addictive, really. And then studio is just so much fun. Like it's like being in the studio is playing. You have toys and we get to play.
Yeah, and they're so different, but ultimately they're both about kind of expressing emotion and finding connection. And we're finding connection amongst us all responding to an idea in the studio that we all feel excited about. That's one of the connections. And then being excited about how people might hear that music. And then when you perform live, there's a lot of prep that goes into live, so that, it's like playing a sports match, like there's loads of training, loads of prep. You have to think about everything, and then you just have to go out there and do it. And within the framework of a game, there's still loads of chaos that can happen. And there's that unknown is a really exciting thing. You are jumping and kind of hoping that your parachute opens. And like the gig that Key was saying about 2 nights ago, I loved it because I was like, for me it was the perfect gig, because it was chaotic and kind of aggressive and violent, just to the point where nothing broke. Like it was like it felt dangerous, and it felt like things could go wrong and things could fall apart, and we took it right to the edge.
That's the sweet spot.
And that's the sweet spot. It's really hard to get there, and for us that's what we're looking for. I don't think from the audience perspective like it's as much of a difference as it feels for us, but when we get it to that exact level, that's when we're like, we all just feel like such an adrenaline rush.
And has there been a fan interaction or experience that left a lasting impression on you?
I'd say like after the last record, because I was very open about grieving and open about the situation with my mum, and I did have a lot of messages from people who'd also lost a parent or lost somebody, and wanted to talk about their grief, and that was like, that's kind of, to be honest, it's like changed the whole trajectory of why I make music. I think before it was more ego driven and more about me, and since that experience, I really like make music now to connect with people. It's a lot less like, I feel a lot less kind of, I used to feel quite angry on stage often, like quite bratty and angry and like be quite aggressive, but I don't think it came from like a very good place. Whereas I think now, having gone through that and connected with fans in that way, I've grown a lot as a person, and I just feel a lot less angry in that way. And the aggression, if there's aggression on stage now, comes from like a healthy place rather than not. So yeah, I'm like really grateful for that, for people being so honest with me as well. Yeah. Is there like a more funny story that's not as intense?
We're not a funny band.
We're here to have a bad time.
Yeah.
But it's a good story.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
If you had to define Saint Agnes as a band and yourselves as artists in one sentence or image, what would it be and why?
I think connecting through emotional intensity for me.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Done. Andy, anything?
I'm
I was waiting for you.
Okay, cool, that'll do,
Yeah.
Nothing to add, so.
Dark industrial rock for those who dare to hope.
Someone's read the press release.
Very nice.
And the other one?
I'm not going to attempt to try and top it. No, honestly, like that covers it.
So it's really cool. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me today.
No,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thanks for the nice question.